General Mason Garcia stood in the huge underground control room beneath the Rocky Mountains. For centuries, this place had been a tourist attraction. School children would visit and laugh at the old war room from ancient times. Now it was fully operational again. "Status report," Mason said to the room full of officers. His voice was calm despite the situation. Captain Olivia Stein stepped forward with a tablet. She was young for her position, only 32, but she had a brilliant mind for strategy. "The Grektal fleet will reach our colony on New Eden in 17 days, she said. "They've sent 60% of their ships, about 300 warships total." Mason nodded slowly. He was a tall man with dark skin and gray hair cut short. At 55, he had spent his entire career studying war without ever fighting one. "And our preparations?" he asked. "Project Lazarus is ahead of schedule," Olivia said with a small smile. "The first prototypes are ready. They work even better than we hoped." Around the room, other officers looked up from their stations. Some of them were smiling too. It was strange, Mason thought. They should be worried about war, but instead many seemed excited. "Show me," he said. Olivia touched her tablet and a large screen on the wall lit up. It showed an ordinary-looking cargo ship floating in space near Jupiter. "That's the farmer's daughter," Olivia explained. "It's registered as an agricultural transport, completely normal. Now watch." She touched the tablet again. On the screen, the cargo ship began to change. Panels that looked like regular hull plates slid aside. From inside the ship, weapons emerged. Not just a few small guns. The entire ship transformed into something completely different. Within 30 seconds, the harmless transport had become a warship bristling with weapons. "Every human colony has ships like this," Olivia said. "They look like normal transports or mining vessels, but they're actually weapon platforms. We've been building them for 200 years, disguising them as regular ships." Mason nodded. "And no one noticed because we never activated them," said a new voice. Dr. Alan Gray walked into the control room. He was a small man, with wild white hair and thick glasses. He had been in charge of Project Lazarus for 30 years. "The weapons were always powered down," Alan continued. "They didn't show up on any scans. We only installed them during regular maintenance when no aliens were around." "What about the colonists?" Mason asked. "Are they ready?" Olivia nodded. "They've been told what to do. Most of them think it's funny. They're planning to have outdoor parties to watch the Grektal ships when they arrive." "Parties?" Mason raised an eyebrow. "Yes, sir, barbecues, picnics, that sort of thing. They're treating it like entertainment." Mason couldn't help but smile a little. Humans were strange sometimes. After 4,000 years without war, many people saw the coming battle as an interesting break from normal life. "What about our main fleet?" he asked. Alan's eyes lit up. "The ships that were in museums are ready to fly again. And the new ships, you should see them, General. We've built things that were only theories before." "Such as?" Mason asked. "The gravity disruptors," Alan said excitedly. "We've been working on the theory for 500 years. Now we've actually built them. They can tear a ship apart without firing a single shot," Olivia added. "And the phantom drives. They let our ships move in ways that break the normal rules of physics. The aliens won't be able to track them." Mason walked to the large window that overlooked the massive underground chamber below. There, technicians were working on ships that hadn't seen action in thousands of years, upgrading them with technologies that had only existed on paper until now. 4,000 years, he said quietly. "That's how long we've been playing war games, running simulations, designing weapons we never built, all because we promised to keep the peace." "And now?" Olivia asked. "Now we get to see if our theories work in practice," Mason said. "Send word to the colonies, tell them to prepare for visitors but not to activate any systems until the Grektal are in orbit. I want them to think they're attacking helpless farmers." "Yes, sir," Olivia said. "And what about Commander Murphy? Has she left Harmony Station?" "She's on her way home," Mason confirmed. "She'll be here tomorrow." Later that evening, Mason met with the United Earth Defense Council. 20 men and women from different parts of Earth sat around a large table. Some attended in person, others as holograms from distant locations. "The Grektal have made a serious mistake," Mason told them. They think we've forgotten how to fight. They think that 4,000 years of peace has made us weak. What they don't understand, said Counselor Pat Rivera, is that peace was a choice. We could have built weapons any time. We just didn't need to. Until now, added Counselor Lee Jones. Mason nodded. Humanity has spent 4,000 years thinking about war without fighting one. That's given us a lot of time to come up with ideas that the Grektal can't imagine. Will there be many casualties? Asked Counselor Sam Wright. On our side? Unlikely, Mason said. If our systems work as designed, the colonists should be quite safe. As for the Grektal, he paused. That depends on whether they retreat or keep fighting after the first battle. And the other alien species, asked Rivera, will they join the fight? Commander Murphy told them to stay out of it, Mason said. I think they will. They're shocked that anyone would break the peace treaty after so long. None of them want to get involved. The meeting continued for another hour. Plans were made. Orders were given. Through it all, Mason noticed a strange mood in the room. These were serious people making serious decisions about war. Yet there was an undercurrent of, was it excitement? Anticipation? After the council meeting, Mason stood on a balcony overlooking Denver. The city lights sparkled in the night. Somewhere out there, regular people were going about their lives, not knowing that humans were about to fight their first war in 4 millennia. Penny for your thoughts? Said a voice behind him. Mason turned to see Olivia standing in the doorway. I was just thinking about how strange humans are, he said. We've maintained peace for so long, but now that war is coming, people almost seem happy about it. Olivia joined him at the railing. It's not that we want war, she said. It's that we've been preparing for it for so long without ever getting to see if our ideas work. It's like planning a party for 4,000 years and finally getting to throw it. Mason laughed. That's a strange way to think about war. Maybe, Olivia agreed. But I think the Grektal are about to learn something important about humans. What's that? Mason asked. We're very creative, Olivia said, and we've had a very long time to think about how to win a war without fighting much at all. In orbit above Mars, the first fleet of human warships prepared to depart. They looked simple compared to the fancy ships of alien races, but inside, they carried technologies that had been illegal in the Galactic Confederation for thousands of years. The countdown had begun. In 17 days, the Grektal would reach New Eden. In 17 days, they would learn why humans were smiling. Commander Elaine Murphy sat in her small office on the giant space station called Harmony. The station floated in space at the exact center point between 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. For 4,000 years, it had been the meeting place for the 17 alien species that made up the Galactic Confederation. Elaine sipped her coffee and looked out her window at the stars. She was the only human on the station. Her job was to speak for Earth when needed. Most days were quiet. The peace had lasted so long that her job was mostly sending reports back home about trade deals and science projects. Today was not a quiet day. Commander Murphy, your presence is requested in the Grand Council chamber immediately, said a voice from her computer. Elaine frowned. The Grand Council never met without planning weeks ahead. Emergency meetings were not normal. What's this about? She asked, but the line was already dead. She put on her blue Earth Defense Force uniform jacket and checked her appearance in the mirror. At 42, her brown hair now had streaks of gray, but her green eyes were still sharp. Humans were among the shorter species in the Confederation, so she had learned to stand tall and speak with confidence. The hallways of Harmony were filled with aliens rushing in all directions. The air buzzed with nervous energy. Something was very wrong. Commander Murphy, called a voice. Elaine turned to see Counselor Nix of Vendari hurrying toward her. Vendari looked like walking crystal sculptures with smooth, glassy skin that reflected light in beautiful patterns. Nix was over 600 years old and had always been friendly to humans. What's happening? Elaine asked. The Grektal have lost their minds, Nix said, his voice like wind chimes. They're calling for war. Elaine almost laughed. War. There hasn't been a war in the Confederation for 4,000 years. Exactly, said Nix. His crystal face couldn't show expressions, but his voice sounded worried. Come quickly. The Grand Council chamber was a huge round room with seats for all 17 species. The ceiling was a perfect dome showing the real-time positions of every major world in the Confederation. Earth was a tiny blue dot far from the center. Elaine took her seat at the human desk. All around her, alien representatives talked in worried voices. At the center of the room stood Ambassador Xylith of the Grektal. The Grektal were tall beings with 4 arms and skin like rough bark. Their eyes glowed yellow, and they had a reputation for being proud. Silence, called the head counselor, an ancient being of pure energy contained in a special suit. The room grew quiet. Ambassador Xylith has called this emergency meeting to make an announcement, said the head counselor. Please proceed. Xylith stepped forward. For too long, humans have been allowed to spread unchecked through the galaxy. They claim to be peaceful, but they breed quickly and take resources that should belong to older, more deserving species. Elaine sat up straight. This was all unexpected. The Grektal Empire has decided that enough is enough, continued Xylith. We hereby declare that all human colonies in the Orion sector must be abandoned within 30 days. Those worlds will become Grektal territory. The chamber erupted in shouts and protests. You cannot do this, called the Taurian representative, a bull-like being with 6 eyes. The peace treaty forbids territorial demands. Then we withdraw from the treaty, said Xylith simply. The Grektal Empire no longer recognizes the Galactic Confederation's authority. Absolute silence fell over the room. In 4,000 years, no species had ever withdrawn from the treaty. If humans do not comply, Xylith continued, we will remove them by force. Our fleets are already moving toward the Orion sector. Elaine felt all eyes turn to her. As Earth's representative, she needed to respond. Her mind raced. The Orion sector had 12 human colonies with millions of people. Evacuating would be impossible in 30 days. Her computer terminal lit up with an incoming message from Earth Command. She expected panic or urgent questions. Instead, there was a single line from Admiral Scott Campbell. Tell them we accept their declaration, and remind them that humans haven't fought a real war in 4,000 years. We're looking forward to the exercise. Elaine read the message twice. Then, strangely, she felt her lips form a smile. She stood up. At 5'7", she was shorter than most beings in the room, but everyone fell silent when she cleared her throat. The United Earth Government has received your declaration, she said to Xylith. We accept it. The room erupted again. You accept the surrender of your colonies? Asked Xylith, his yellow eyes widening in surprise. No, said Elaine, her smile growing wider. We accept your declaration of war. The noise in the chamber grew louder. You cannot be serious, shouted Xylith. Your species has no war fleets. You've lived in peace for 4 millennia. Yes, said Elaine. And apparently some of us have gotten rather bored with that. She turned to address the entire council. Humanity regrets that the Grektal have chosen to break the longest peace in galactic history. We wish to continue peaceful relations, but we will defend our colonies. With what? Sneered Xylith. Your science vessels and cargo ships? Elaine shrugged. I guess you'll find out. Her terminal beeped again with a new message. It contained tactical information about the Grektal fleet movements and a simple note. Tell the other species to stay out of it. This will be over quickly. I am instructed to inform the Council that Earth considers this a matter between humans and the Grektal, Elaine announced. We ask other species to maintain their neutrality. We don't want anyone getting hurt accidentally. The idea that humans were concerned about accidentally hurting other species made several council members exchange confused glances. You're outnumbered. 10-1, said Xylith. Your colonies will fall within days. Perhaps, said Elaine. She found herself still smiling. It was unprofessional, but she couldn't help it. But I should warn you about something, Ambassador. What's that? Asked Xylith. Humans may have been peaceful for 4,000 years, but we never forgot how to fight. We just channeled those instincts into Theoretical exercises. Meaning, what? Asked the head counselor. Meaning, said Elaine, that while the Grektal have been building real weapons, humans have been imagining weapons that no one would actually build because they would be too terrible to use. She gathered her things and stood up. Until now, that is, my government has informed me that production began 20 minutes ago. As she walked toward the door, she turned back to the stunned council. One more thing. When the Grektal fleet reaches our colonies, they might notice people gathering to watch. Don't be offended. Humans have a strange sense of humor, and some of them think this whole situation is actually quite funny. The door closed behind her, leaving the council chamber in shocked silence. Back in her office, Elaine sent a message to Earth. Declaration delivered. Request permission to return home. Thur. Reply came almost instantly. Permission granted. Last shuttle leaves in 2 hours, don't miss it. Things are about to get interesting. Elaine Murphy looked out at the stars one more time and laughed softly to herself. After 20 years of boring diplomatic work, she was finally going to see what humanity could really do when challenged. It was going to be quite a show. The colony of New Eden was beautiful in the spring. Fields of golden wheat stretched across the valley. Farmers worked their land under the warm sun. Children played in the streets of small towns. From space, it looked like a peaceful farming. World Fleet Commander Krax of the Grektal stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Righteous Victory. He was tall even for a Grektal, with rough bark-like skin and glowing yellow eyes. All 4 of his arms were covered in medals from mocks, battles, and training exercises. Show me the human colony, he ordered. The main screen lit up with images of New Eden. Krax studied the planet with narrowed eyes. No defenses? He asked. No orbital stations? No weapon platforms? His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Vex, checked. The scanner readings again. Nothing, sir, just 50 agricultural transport ships in orbit. They appear to be regular cargo vessels. No weapons detected. Krax made a sound like grinding stones. It was a Grektal laugh. Send the advanced scouts. Tell them to scan again before we commit the main fleet. 3 Grektal ships moved ahead of the fleet. They were small and fast, designed for reconnaissance. They entered orbit around New Eden and began detailed scans of the planet and the ships in orbit. Commander, called the communication officer. The scouts report something strange. What is it? Asked Krax. The humans are not evacuating. In fact, they seem to be gathering in open spaces, setting up chairs and tables. Krax frowned. Show me. The screen changed to show images from the planet's surface. In town squares and open fields, humans were indeed setting up chairs and tables. Some were cooking food on open fires. Others were setting up what looked like viewing stands facing the sky. Magnify that area, Krax ordered, pointing to a large gathering. The image zoomed in on a town square where hundreds of humans were setting up chairs in neat rows. A large white screen had been erected at one end. Children ran around with toys. That looked suspiciously like spaceships. What are they doing? Vex asked, confused. They're preparing to watch us, Krax realized. His 4 hearts beat faster with anger. They're treating our arrival like some kind of entertainment. Should we delay the attack? Asked Vex. No, Krax said firmly. They mock us because they think we won't attack civilians. They're wrong. All ships prepare to enter orbit, charge the ion cannons. The massive Grektal fleet moved forward, 300 warships strong. They formed a perfect attack formation and entered orbit around New Eden. On the planet below, humans pointed up at the sky as the ships became visible. Sir, said the sensor operator, I'm detecting energy readings from the human transports. What kind of readings? Krax asked. Unknown. The officer paused, checking his instruments again. The ships are changing, sir. On the screen, the simple human cargo ships began to transform. Sections of hull plating slid aside, revealing weapons that had been hidden inside. Ships that had appeared harmless suddenly bristled with strange devices that the Grektal scanners couldn't identify. Impossible, whispered Vex. All ships, open fire, Krax shouted. "Destroy those vessels before they can activate their weapons." The Grektal fleet fired its ion cannons. Beams of blue energy shot toward the human ships. But something strange happened. Instead of hitting their targets, the beams curved away at the last moment as if pushed aside by invisible hands. "Direct hit on the lead transport," called a weapons officer excitedly. But on the screen, the human ship remained intact. A shimmer surrounded it, like heat rising from hot pavement. "That's impossible," Vex said. "No shield can stop an ion cannon." "Sir?" The communications officer called. "We're receiving a transmission from the planet." "Put it through," Krax ordered. The screen changed to show a human female with brown skin and black hair pulled back tightly. She wore a simple uniform with the words, "New Eden Defense" on the chest. "This is Colonel Rebecca Hayes of New Eden Colony," she said calmly. "Your attack has been classified as a hostile action against a peaceful settlement. We are now authorized to respond." "You have no weapons that can harm us," Krax said. "Surrender now, and we will allow your people to evacuate before we take your world." Colonel Hayes smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You misunderstand, Commander. We're not surrendering. We're giving you one chance to leave." Krax laughed his grinding stone laugh again. "You're outnumbered and outgunned, human." "Actually," Hayes said, "we're not. Lazarus systems activating now." The screen went back to the view of space. The transformed human ships were glowing with strange energy. Then, without warning, they fired. It was like nothing Krax had ever seen. The weapons didn't fire energy beams or physical projectiles. Instead, waves of distortion spread out from the human ships. Where these waves touched Grektal vessels, strange things happened. Some ships simply fell apart, their hulls separating along seam lines as if invisible hands were disassembling them. Others spun wildly, their engines firing at random. Still others drifted, all power lost. "What is happening?" Krax shouted. "What are these weapons?" "Gravity disruptors," Vex said in a shocked voice. "They're using gravity disruptors. But those are illegal. The Confederation banned that research 4,000 years ago." "Apparently," Krax said grimly, "the humans didn't get the message. In less than 2 minutes, 1/3 of the Grektal fleet was disabled or destroyed. No human ship had been damaged." "Fall back," Krax ordered. "All ships, emergency retreat." The remaining Grektal ships tried to flee. Many made it away from the planet. But to Krax's horror, some of the human ships began to move in impossible ways. They didn't accelerate gradually like normal ships. They simply disappeared from one place and appeared in another, blocking the escape routes. "Phantom drives," Vex whispered. "Another banned technology." "Sir," the communication officer called. "Colonel Hayes is calling again." The human appeared, on screen once more. Behind her, Krax could see other humans watching screens that showed the battle in space. They were eating food and drinking from cups. Some were laughing and pointing. "Your demonstration is over, Commander," Hayes said. "I suggest you tell your surviving ships to stand down." "This is not over," Krax growled. "The Grektal Empire will not be defeated by farmers." "We're not farmers," Hayes corrected him. "Well, some of us are. But we're also engineers, scientists, and military strategists who have had 4,000 years to think about how to fight a war without actually fighting one." She leaned closer to the camera. "And by the way, the colonists are disappointed. They expected a better show. It only lasted 3 minutes." Krax's flagship shuddered as something grabbed it from behind. On his tactical display, he could see that a human ship had somehow appeared directly behind the righteous Victory. "Last chance, Commander," Hayes said. "Surrender or retreat. Choose quickly." Krax looked around his bridge. Officers who had never seen real combat before were frozen in fear. Displays showed more Grektal ships being disabled by the strange human weapons. "All ships," he said finally, "retreat beyond the system boundary. We will regroup and wait for reinforcements." The transmission ended. Those Grektal ships that could still move began to flee the system. On the surface of New Eden, Colonel Rebecca Hayes stood in the town square of the colony's main settlement. Around her, colonists were starting to pack up their chairs and barbecue equipment. "Is it over already?" asked an old farmer, sounding disappointed. The first round is, Hayes told him, but they'll be back with more ships. Will we get a longer show next time? Asked a young woman holding a small child. Hayes laughed. I'll see what I can do. She walked to her command post, a simple building that had been a grain storage facility until a week ago. Inside, advanced communication equipment had been set up. Get me Earth Command, she said to her communications officer. A moment later, Admiral Scott Campbell's face appeared on the screen. Report, Colonel, he said. Test successful, Admiral, Hayes said. The Lazarus defensive grid works better than simulated. We disabled approximately 1/3 of the enemy fleet with no casualties on our side. The colonists are disappointed. By brevity of display, requesting permission to pursue, Campbell smiled. Permission granted. Happy hunting, Colonel. Hayes ended the transmission and turned to her tactical officer. Prepare 10 ships for pursuit. Let's show the Grektal that running away won't help them. Outside, the colonists of New Eden went back to their regular lives. Children played with new toys shaped like the Grektal ships that had exploded in orbit. Farmers returned to their fields. Life continued as normal. Except now, they had a story to tell. A story about the day aliens came to their peaceful world looking for an easy victory, and found instead that humans had not forgotten how to fight. The Galactic Confederation's Grand Council met in emergency session. The giant dome of the chamber on Harmony Station was filled with worried voices. Representatives from all 17 species sat at their places, talking in hushed tones. Only, the human seat was empty. High Chancellor Vex of the Trilaxians called for order. The Trilaxians were small beings with 6 limbs and skin that changed color with their emotions. Right now, Vex was a nervous shade of purple. We have received disturbing reports, Vex announced. The Grektal attack on the human colony of New Eden has failed. Ambassador Krell of the Grektal rose from his seat. Unlike Fleet Commander Krax, Krell was old, and his bark-like skin was cracked with age. This is a temporary setback, Krell said. Our main fleet is moving to support the advance force. The humans caught us by surprise, but they cannot stand against our full might. Your advance force was 300 warships, said Counselor Nix of the Vendari. His crystal body sparkled in the light. And you lost 1/3 of them in 3 minutes. The chamber went silent. No one had heard the numbers before. How is this possible? Asked the representative of the Zorn, a species that looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin. Humans have no military. They've been peaceful for 4,000 years. Apparently, said Nix, they've been lying to us. The main doors to the chamber opened. To everyone's surprise, Commander Elaine Murphy walked in. She had been expected to return to Earth, but here she was. She walked calmly to the human seat and sat down. Commander Murphy, said High Chancellor Vex, we did not expect to see you again. I was halfway home when I received new orders, Elaine said. My government felt someone should explain what's happening. Please do, said Vex. The chamber went completely silent. Elaine stood. For 4,000 years, humanity has honored the peace treaty. We have not built warships. We have not created banned weapons. We have been good members of the Confederation. She paused, looking around the room. But we never stopped thinking about war. Ambassador Krell made a harsh sound. What does that mean? It means, Elaine continued, that while we didn't build weapons, we designed them. We ran simulations. We created theories. We played war games, all perfectly legal under the treaty, which only banned the actual construction of certain technologies. The alien representatives looked at each other in confusion. When the Grektal declared war, Elaine said, we simply took our theories and built them. In 1 week, we converted ships that looked like harmless transports into the most advanced weapon platforms in the galaxy. Impossible, said Krell. No species could develop such technology so quickly. We didn't develop it quickly, Elaine corrected him. We spent 4,000 years developing it. We just didn't build it until now. She touched a control on her desk, and a hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Grektal ships falling apart in space, their hulls separating as if invisible hands were taking them apart. Gravity disruptors, Elaine explained. They change the way gravity works around a ship. Metal beams that were solid suddenly weigh nothing in one spot and too much in another. The ship tears itself apart. The hologram changed to show human ships disappearing and reappearing in different places. Phantom drives, she continued. They don't move a ship through space. They fold space itself, allowing a ship to be in one place then another without crossing the distance between. The council watched in silence. These were technologies that had been banned because they were too dangerous, too disruptive. Why? Are you telling us this? Asked High Chancellor Vex. Because I want you to understand what will happen next, Elaine said. The Grektal broke the peace treaty. They attacked a human colony. By the laws of the Confederation, we are entitled to defend ourselves. Of course, said Vex, but surely these demonstrations have made your point. Perhaps now peace talks can begin. Elaine shook her head. My government is not interested in talks at this time. The Grektal wanted war. We are giving them war. If on cue her communication device beeped. She looked at it, then back at the council. I've just received word that the first human offensive has begun, she announced. 10 ships from New Eden are pursuing the Grektal survivors. Additionally, Earth has dispatched its main fleet toward the Grektal home system. Ambassador Krell jumped to his feet. This is an outrage. You cannot attack our homeworld. Why not? Elaine asked simply. You were going to take our colonies. Why shouldn't we take your worlds in return? The chamber erupted in shouts and arguments. High Chancellor Vex called for order repeatedly before the noise died down. Commander Murphy, Vex said, surely your government understands that escalating this conflict could destabilize the entire Confederation. 4,000 years of peace cannot end like this. We didn't end it, Elaine reminded him. The Grektal did. And now they will face the consequences. Over the next 3 days, reports came in from across Grektal space. The news was always the same. Human ships appeared suddenly near Grektal outposts or fleets. Brief battles followed. The Grektal always lost. On the third day, the Grand Council met again. This time the chamber was tense and quiet. Ambassador Krell's seat was empty. We have received word, High Chancellor Vex announced, that the main Grektal defense fleet has been defeated. Human ships have entered orbit around the Grektal homeworld. Counselor Nix of the Vendari spoke. What are their demands? All eyes turned to Commander Murphy. She checked her communications device before answering. Earth has offered terms to the Grektal government, she said. They may keep their homeworld and core systems. They must surrender all military vessels. They must pay to rebuild anything damaged on New Eden. And they must formally apologize to the Confederation for breaking the peace treaty. That's surprisingly generous, said Nix. Humans don't want territory, Elaine explained. We don't need the Grektal worlds. We just needed to show them that attacking us was a mistake. A mistake that cost them their entire military, noted the Zorn representative. Yes, Elaine agreed. An expensive lesson. The rest of the council meeting focused on what would happen next. Many representatives were worried. If humans had developed such powerful technologies in secret, what did that mean for the balance of power in the Confederation? After the meeting, Counselor Nix approached Elaine in the hallway. The other species are afraid now, he said. They see what humanity did to the Grektal, and they wonder if they might be next. Elaine shook her head. We have no interest in attacking anyone who keeps the peace. The Grektal made a choice. They suffered the consequences. Still, said Nix, things will never be the same. The other species know now that humanity has been, what's the word? Sandbagging, Elaine suggested with a small smile. What does that mean? It's when you hide your true abilities to make others think you're less capable than you really are. Nix's crystal body flashed with colors. Yes, that. The Confederation now knows that humans have been sandbagging for 4,000 years. That knowledge changes everything. Later that day, Elaine received a message from Admiral Campbell on Earth. The transmission was brief. Grektal have accepted our terms. Victory is complete. Return to Earth for debriefing. The President wants to meet you. As Elaine packed her few belongings in her quarters on Harmony Station, she thought about what Nix had said. Things would never be the same. The peaceful facade of humanity had been stripped away. The galaxy had seen what humans could do when provoked. But maybe that was for the best, she thought. Maybe now the other species would understand that peace wasn't something humans maintained because they were weak or afraid. It was a choice they made every day, despite having the power to do otherwise. Her communication device beeped again. It was a message from Colonel Hayes on New Eden. Thought you'd like to know, the message read. The colonists have started a new holiday. They're calling it Visiting Day. They plan to have barbecues and watch recordings of the battle every year. Humans are strange, aren't we? Elaine laughed out loud. Yes, humans were strange indeed. 4,000 years of peace had not changed their nature. They still found humor in the strangest situations, even war. As she left her quarters for the last time, she wondered what the Grektal thought about it all. Did they understand yet? Did they realize what they had done when they broke the peace? Did they understand that the most dangerous species in the galaxy wasn't the one that fought wars all the time, but the one that chose not to fight despite having the power to win? 42 days after the Grektal declaration of war, it was over. The once mighty Grektal Empire had been reduced to its home planet and a handful of nearby worlds. Their great fleets were gone. Their military bases on distant planets stood empty. For the first time in 800 years, the Grektal were not a major power in the galaxy. Admiral Scott Campbell stood on the bridge of the Earthship Remembrance. It had once been a museum piece in orbit around Mars. Now it was the flagship of humanity's first battle fleet in 4,000 years. The ship floated in space above the Grektal homeworld, Terex Prime. Status report, Campbell said. He was a tall man with white hair and dark skin. At 70 years old, he was one of the few humans who had ever expected to see actual combat. All Grektal ships have powered down their weapons, reported his second-in-command, Captain Eric Jones. Their ground defenses are offline. They're waiting for our landing party. Campbell nodded. Prepare the shuttle. I want to deliver the peace terms in person. An hour later, Campbell's shuttle landed in the Grand Plaza of the Grektal capital city. The plaza was huge, designed to show off the power and wealth of the Grektal. Tall buildings made of black stone surrounded it. Statues of Grektal heroes stood in rows. But today the plaza was mostly empty. Only a small group of Grektal officials waited near the landing pad. Campbell stepped out of the shuttle with 4 guards. He walked toward the Grektal group. At their center stood a very old Grektal with skin so cracked and dry it looked like it might fall off. This was High Lord Zox, ruler of what remained of the Grektal Empire. Welcome to Terex Prime, Admiral. Campbell, said Zox in a voice like rustling leaves. We are prepared to discuss terms. Campbell held up a small datapad. There's nothing to discuss. These are the terms. Accept them, or we continue the war. Zox took the pad with one of his 4 hands. He read silently for a few moments. These are surprisingly reasonable, he said finally. We expected much harsher demands. We're not interested in destroying your people, Campbell said, or taking your worlds. We just want you to understand that attacking us was a mistake. Zox looked up at the human ships visible in the sky. Oh, we understand that now. The terms were simple. The Grektal would keep their homeworld and closest colonies. They would surrender all military vessels and bases. They would pay to repair the small amount of damage done to New Eden. They would formally apologize to the Galactic Confederation for breaking the peace treaty, and they would accept human observers on their worlds for the next 500 years. What will happen to our people on the outer colonies? Zox asked. They can come home, Campbell said. We'll provide transport. Those worlds will remain under Confederation control for now. Zox handed the pad to an aide. We accept these terms. The formal surrender will be signed within the hour. Campbell nodded. Good. Then this war is over. Later that day, Campbell sent word to Earth. Mission complete. Grektal have surrendered, returning home with signed treaty. On Earth, the news of victory was met with a strange mix of celebration and thoughtful quiet. Humans had won their first war in 4,000 years without losing a single ship or life. It had been so easy that many people felt it wasn't worth celebrating. Others saw it as proof that their long preparation had worked exactly as planned. In the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Mason Garcia met with his staff one last time. Project Lazarus is officially complete, he told them. All deployed systems performed beyond expectations. The gravity disruptors and phantom drives worked perfectly. What happens now? Asked Captain Olivia Stein. Do we dismantle everything? Garcia shook his head. No. The President has ordered all systems to remain operational but powered down. We go back to the way things were before, but now the galaxy knows what we can do if provoked. Dr. Alan Gray smiled. 4,000 years of theory, and it all worked perfectly in practice. I don't know whether to be happy or sad about that. Be happy, Garcia told him. Our theories saved lives. If we hadn't been so prepared, this war might have been much bloodier. 2 weeks later, the Galactic Confederation's Grand Council met to formally end the conflict and restore peace. This time, the human seat was filled by President Laura Chen herself, the first time an Earth president had ever visited Harmony Station. High Chancellor Vex called the meeting to order. We are gathered to witness the formal end of hostilities between the Grektal Empire and the United Earth Government. Ambassador Krell of the Grektal stood. He looked much older than he had just weeks before. On behalf of High Lord Zox and all Grektal, I formally apologize to the Confederation for our breach of the peace treaty. We acted rashly and suffered the consequences. President Chen stood next. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. But when she spoke, her voice was firm. Humanity accepts the Grektal apology, she said. We consider this matter closed, provided the terms of the peace agreement are followed. High Chancellor Vex looked relieved. Then, by the power of this council, I declare the conflict officially ended. The peace of the Confederation is restored. There was polite applause from the assembled representatives, but it was clear that things had changed. The way the other species looked at the human delegation was different now. There was respect, but also caution, perhaps even fear. After the meeting, President Chen spoke privately with High Chancellor Vex. I want to assure you, she said, that humanity remains committed to peace. What happened with the Grektal was necessary, but not something we wanted. I understand, Vex said. But you must also understand that the balance of the Confederation has shifted. For 4,000 years, we believed that humans had chosen peace because you had forgotten how to wage war. Now we know you were simply choosing not to use your... Persia, Chen smiled. Isn't that what peace is? The choice not to use power? Perhaps, Vex admitted. But it is easier to feel safe when you believe your neighbors can't hurt you, rather than knowing they simply choose not to. Later, as President Chen prepared to return to Earth, she received a message from Colonel Rebecca Hayes on New Eden. Thought, you might like to know. The message read, We had our first visiting day celebration yesterday. The whole colony gathered to watch recordings of the battle. Children played with toys shaped like Grektal ships that fell apart when you pushed a button. There was dancing and food and a lot of laughter. It's good to hear people laugh after being so afraid. Chen smiled as she read the message. Humans had always found ways to laugh, even in the face of danger. Perhaps that was why they had maintained peace for so long when so many other species would have used their power to conquer. They understood that there were better things to do with life than fight wars. On Earth, museums began to display artifacts from the 42-day war. Schools added it to their history lessons. And in the underground facilities where Project Lazarus had been developed, scientists returned to their theoretical work, designing weapons they hoped would never be built. Life in the galaxy returned to normal. Trade resumed. Diplomatic relations were restored. The Grektal began the long process of rebuilding their society, without the military focus that had defined them for centuries. And in the chambers of the Galactic Confederation, when human representatives smiled during meetings, the other species no longer wondered why. They understood now that behind those smiles was a species that had mastered both peace and war, and had simply chosen peace as the better option, a choice they hoped the humans would continue to make for the next 4,000 years.